Okay, so what is one financial habit you live by?
Spend less than you have and not think that avoiding something means being able to make the payment. Before I answer your question, I do believe that one of the biggest misconceptions about investing is that a lot of people think that they have to be rich to invest.
There's something truly special about sitting down with someone and seeing the world through their lens. It changes what you think you know and often leaves you changed. In this episode, I sit down with Fifa Rakotoarison, an Ironman triathlete, investor, and someone who's intentionally crafted a life that balances passion and purpose. He's found a way to pursue what he loves, invest in a secure future for his family, and still live fully in the present.
Investing at a young age, yes, is an advantage, but I really do not believe that there is such a thing as too old to invest your money. I don't think so. But you just need to make sure that, like, what are you putting your money into?
Yeah.
At the very least, put it in a high yield savings account.
Yeah.
This conversation stood out because FIFA was both open enough to give a glimpse into what he enjoys the most and also detailed enough to inspire someone who's seeking deeper fulfillment.
For me, when I am interested in something, I go hard. And that's why I need to be careful with what I get into.
How many triathlons have you been in?
Triathlon races,
Mm-hmm.
I have like 30 medals.
As we dug in, I found myself drawn to a question we often don't ask enough: the importance of leaning into discomfort.
The grind of triathlon training like teaches me to be able to do a lot of the things that I don't necessarily enjoy but are necessary for where I want to be at.
And I got to hear firsthand at what most successful people are very good at concealing.
So talking about the Ironman from last year, or even the first Ironman you went to, has there been a time when you feel like quitting?
Oh, I've cried. I have cried in the middle of and I'm not a crier, but I've cried in the middle of a training because it was so painful. I'm like, why am I doing this? This is ridiculous.
You know those conversations with a friend that leave you feeling grounded? The kind that make you pause and think about your own journey in self-reflection? I hope this is one of those for you. Listen in.
Do you consider yourself a nerd?
I think I am a nerd, but
I think that we live in a world that is full of quick fixes. But I, having looked at your life so far, the little that I know about you, you are very disciplined. So how are you able to stay disciplined in this world that is full of quick fixes and everybody wanting to get it now, get it fast?
I wouldn't say I am disciplined.
Okay.
I feel like I have a lot of vices. I am very prone to laziness. I can binge watch like entire seasons of TV shows in one sitting if I just let myself do what I desire to do. And so because of that, I feel like I put a lot of forced activities in my life. Like I do sign up for races that are beyond my capabilities, so I'm forced to train. For example, I'm a spender by nature. I'm a spender, but for example, with money, I do automatic investment, savings, and stuff like that, so that I don't have to expose myself to a lot of those things. So I feel like I put a lot of boundaries in my life to prevent myself from going down to what I naturally know. I'm pretty lazy naturally. Yeah.
But someone looking at you wouldn't know that about you, Someone talking to you probably in a conversation wouldn't know that about you. And I think that we probably are all lazy in a way, but we probably have this desire to become better at what we do. We have this desire of, doing things a little bit better. So is there anything that you think has made you be able to find that difference, for example, in deciding not to watch or binge watch a series and do something, for example, work on your fitness for the next fitness plan for the next 5 months, something like that?
I think few things. I keep myself busy. Secondly, I also, for example, I have Netflix account.
Mm-hmm.
I have Disney Plus,
Mm-hmm.
and I always avoid starting series. I watch movies. I don't start series because I know
You're gonna be stuck there for
I'm
the
gonna be
next
stuck
couple.
there.
Yeah.
The other things that I do is, for example, because I do train for triathlon,
Mm-hmm.
so I have turbo trainer, like things that you attach to your bike,
Yeah.
so you can train at home.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'm 2 hours on the trainer, and that's when I watch TV shows and stuff like that. So I still
Oh,
get
okay.
my movie fix,
Yeah.
but I also get to train. Um, I listen to a lot of content when I drive,
Mm-hmm.
so I get to get those content and the things that I want to listen to,
Mm-hmm.
while basically trying to mix things together so that I'm a little bit better steward of my time. But it's a
Yeah.
work in progress. I am
Mm-hmm.
not that good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Today you're gonna tell me about this, about all this, folks. If you're new to this show, this is the Couch Connect. Over here, I hang out with great people like FIFA here, and we have a chat about the science and art in everyday life experiences. So if you haven't yet, do subscribe to this channel and like this episode, and remember to tell your friends to tell their friends. And this is my promise to you. I'm going to daily continue working to become better at this, ask great questions, get great guests like FIFA here, and have interesting conversations like we always do. So today's conversation is going to be about discipline, about fitness, financial freedom, and purpose. And I think there was no better guest to get to talk about this than FIFA here. So FIFA is a minister of the gospel, but beyond that, he is a fitness enthusiast. He is great in financial investment. Maybe we can start off here at FIFA. You are into this movement. It's called the FIRE movement. Would you say that about yourself?
I wouldn't say I'm into fire, but it's the closest thing I guess that I am
Okay.
into.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily agree with a lot of what the people in fire do,
Mm-hmm.
but I do follow a lot of the people who have succeeded in fire because they have achieved goals that I
Yeah.
want to achieve myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did you come up with these goals?
Two reasons.
Mhm.
One is because I do not want to work or depend on income until I'm old. That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
The second element is from a more religious perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a pastor. I work in ministry, and I do believe that there is need to be able to do that ministry, even if time comes when we cannot depend on income.
Yeah.
And I feel like majority of people, including myself right now, are very dependent on income.
Yeah.
That if basically we get to a point where as a pastor, as a church, we need to share the gospel, we need to share the truth, but we are not in a financial situation to do it as an organization.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that many will not be able to sustain their life
Mhm.
and still be able to do ministry. So it's something that I feel like if I am now prepared while times are good,
Mm-hmm.
then hopefully I'll be able to continue to minister
Okay.
to people without necessarily the income. I don't wish that to come, but if it were to happen,
Yeah.
that's one of the things that that I think about. The other thing is I feel like a lot of the problems that we face right now is so tied into finance.
Yeah.
And so I think that if we're more disciplined, more free, more independent financially, then I feel like that would reduce a lot of stress.
Okay. I believe that, the last thing that you said here, a lot of stress is tied to financial problems.
Yeah.
And if we were to talk about financial problems, then a lot of stress will be solved or reduced. When I started off here, I said the FIRE movement, but you said you have something that is closely related to the FIRE movement. So what is the FIRE movement for folks who don't know?
So FIRE, financial independence, retire early. That's what FIRE stands for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coined by a guy called Money Mustache. I don't really know his real name. I don't remember. But he has a blog called Money Mustache. And he's this engineer guy who used to work in California. And he discovered that if he saved enough money, then live and invest those money, and that you will be able to live off of his investment without having to work anymore.
Yeah.
And he published it, and he gained a lot of popularity.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe about 3 years ago, I first heard about it, and it was very appealing to
Yeah.
me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to follow a lot of those people, learn about how they do it. I say that I am not completely in the FIRE movement because I feel like my savings rate is lower than a lot of the people in the FIRE movement, and a lot of the people in the FIRE movement are extreme, like they practice extreme frugality. I don't. I don't. I just try to apply a lot of the principles that I think are good, but I am not as extreme, I believe,
Okay.
as a lot of the people in the FIRE movement.
So your difference is in the fact that you're not as extreme as they are.
Yeah.
So, what is it that you do then that is different from what they actually do? Any specific thing that you actually do?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, we live below our means. We don't spend money we don't have.
Yeah.
My wife and I have about 35 or so percent savings rate on a, monthly basis, yearly basis.
Yeah.
Our goal is for it to be about 40% savings rate. That we save basically 40% of our income. We are about 35% or so right now. We still do enjoy, a decent life. We eat out, we go to concert, we go on vacation. A lot of the people in the FIRE completely deprive themselves of a lot of those things so that they can reach this, mystic FIRE level sometime in the future.
Okay.
And I believe they don't really live in the now.
Yeah.
And so for me, I try to find a little bit of a balance where, for example, we, especially my wife, is amazing with accounting, amazing with budgeting. So we try to stay within our budget. We try to have a decent savings rate.
Yeah.
We are not in debt. We don't pay almost anything on credit. I mean, we have credit cards, but we pay them off.
Yeah.
And try basically to save as much as we can.
Okay.
And so if that's called FIRE, then I guess I'm in FIRE.
you're in
but, based on a lot of the people
Yeah.
on the FIRE movement that I know, it's not quite
Yeah, at that level.
at that level.
Yeah. So you said here that you arrived at 35, somewhere, and you want to get to 40%. Is there a specific reason why you are aiming for 40%?
Yes, there is. Because so the general idea is that if you invest your money in the stock market, and the S&P 500, I guess, is the most common metrics that a lot of people use, has about historically like 7% return or so after inflation. And so the idea is that if you know what your yearly cost is, what your yearly expense is, and if that yearly expense can be 4% of your total investment, then you'll be able to take out 4% of your investment every year to cover your expense. And then you, in theory, basically, you will be able to live off of your investment without adding. Because it still grows, but you'll still be able to take money out.
And this can happen in perpetuity, right?
My understanding is not it's not in perpetuity. It's still theory. It's still a theory. But based on calculation, it should be safe enough. And the reason why we want to be at around 40% savings rate is because that 40% savings rate will get us at around age 42 or 43 enough investment that will allow us basically to take out 4% of our investment every year and live the life that we want to live. That's the reason behind the 40%.
Yeah. I love the fact that you actually do have a reason for this, and it's very practical in my opinion. But even in that sense, So you did say that this happened 3 years ago, and you ran into Money Mustache, and you kind of became interested in all this. But was there a specific event or a specific moment that you can remember that was like, you know what, I think I'd love to do that?
So, so basically, I lived in I first of all I grew up in poverty.
Okay.
Pretty objective poverty. I grew up in Madagascar.
Mm-hmm.
Madagascar has about 86% of the population living under $2 a day, the poverty line.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty poor country. And as a child, I lived in pretty object poverty. Things kind of improved later on in life, but never been, I don't come from an affluent family or even upper class,
Mm-hmm.
upper middle class family. So for me, the idea of a financial security is something that I've always had in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
When COVID started, I went into a lot of the crypto craze.
Yeah.
Like 2020 crypto.
I went into
Like,
that
I went
too.
deep,
Yeah.
in it, and I'm not proud of it, but I lost quite a bit of my savings
Mm-hmm.
doing it, and then I left completely. I said, this is not for me. This is a waste of money. And then for about maybe 2 years or so, I did not do any investment or anything crypto. Like, I didn't want to hear
Yeah.
at all. And then later on, one of the things about me is that I consume a lot of content.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. I read a lot of articles and stuff like that. And so I kind of went back and started to learn. I said, what is it that I did wrong then?
Mm-hmm.
And I started to learn more of what I needed to do to save, what investment really meant. It was not the crypto, it was not the
Yeah.
meme coins,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't that. But I learned that a lot of normal people actually can invest in a more safe, in a more diversified, in a more responsible
Mm-hmm.
manner. And so when I learned about that, it was also about that same time when I learned about fire.
Yeah.
And the two kind of came together.
Mm-hmm.
Before I got married with my wife almost 2 years ago, I had a lot of the theories, but not a lot of the disciplines
Mm-hmm.
to do it. But when my wife and I got married, she didn't have a lot of the knowledge, but she came with a lot of the discipline.
Yeah.
And so basically, when all of that merged, we merged all of our finance out of all, and that's when it started.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, she has always been a saver,
Yeah.
but she didn't really know what to do with the money.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I started to have a lot of knowledge on what to do with the money, but I was horrible
Yeah.
at saving. So
yeah.
when basically we got married,
Mhm.
that's when we, started to learn
Mhm.
what to do with our money, what our goals are. And for me, I'm a fairly adventurous person. I want to travel the world. I want to see more of the world. And so the idea for me of having enough fund so that I can do a lot of those things was very enticing
Yeah.
to me. And unless you win the lottery, the idea was, well, if you save enough, then you have more chance to achieve that. That's kind
Yeah.
of how it started.
Mm-hmm. Your story is very interesting here, man. I was just remembering when you talked about COVID and crypto. Interestingly, there was a moment where I was very interested in crypto. I mean, as a person who follows technology very slowly, I like getting into this. I'm a late adopter of technology, but I always do like understanding some technologies, and the best way to understand technology is to get into it. So I did get into crypto as well a little bit. I still have a bit of a bunch of Bitcoin and Ethereum still, but I got into it also. But my problem is that I was, there was a lot of time during COVID, and a lot of my, whatever I was doing, I had time in my hands, and so what I did was day trading. I was day trading crypto, which is really bad in my opinion. I'm not a day trader. I've advised against day trading if you're not.
The risk of failure is too high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I also lost everything in the day trading, and thanks for sharing that that beat of your story as well of coming into this. But then you also said something here very interesting. The person that you chose to marry also came to balance. You know, it came with the tools, and you had the knowledge, and so the tools and knowledge matched properly. What would you say is how would you say important it is to choose a spouse that you're marrying with regards to your financial goals?
Oh, absolutely important. Totally important. Um, I mean, my wife is an absolute rock star when it comes to budgeting, when it comes to knowing our expenses and stuff like that. I didn't really know a lot of that. I didn't really know what was my yearly expense. I didn't have a lot of that information. But my wife is very, very good at that. And we definitely do balance each other out. I find that some of the biggest problem that a lot of couples have is on finance. And I feel very blessed that I have married somebody who is very financially responsible, way more financially responsible than I am. But we do share the same goal, and so because of that, we kind of keep each other accountable in trying to achieve those goals. I mean, my wife, sorry, but also my wife studied business administration.
Yeah.
So she has a little bit of background in finance. And so she's the one who takes care of our daily transaction, our daily expense. She keeps track of all of our expense. She keeps track of our income, where the money goes. She keeps track of all of that.
Yeah.
And because of that, we're able to know our expense on a monthly basis. We know have we reached our goal or not. Where have we derailed? Where have we done well? And then maybe a couple of times a month or once a month, we do sit together on the computer and look at all the spreadsheets. And we use an app called YNAB. It stands for You Need a Budget. Very good app, actually, that my wife uses that tracks basically all of our expenses. And thanks to her, we have a very clear idea and understanding of where our finances are.
Important. I would say that is important. You said something here that you look at where you've derailed and where you've done well, and you award yourself. So do you also punish yourselves if you've derailed a little bit?
No, we don't. Like, the idea for us is just that we need to have a good idea of what we're spending. I think majority of people just don't know how much they're spending on things. They don't know how much their grocery costs them. They don't know how much their subscription costs them. They don't know how much their car payment, gas, insurance cost them. And so basically a lot of people kind of do more of like a response in the sense that, you know, they get their income at the end of the month and then they have to pay, and then they don't really know how much they spent.
Yeah.
For us, we have a certain idea. Well, thanks to my wife, I don't really take credit on that. We have an idea of how much it is that we have available for certain things.
Yeah.
And the good thing about it is that we don't have to stress too much about certain things. For example, we want to eat out. She opens the app. We still have $100 this month on eating out. Yeah, let's go eat out.
Okay.
We don't have to think too much about
And
it.
this is the YNAB.
YNAB.
Yeah. How do you spell that?
It stands for You Need a Budget. So YNAB.
Oh.
YNAB. There are many of those
okay.
apps.
So YNAB. Okay, I see what you
Yeah,
mean.
there are many apps that that
Yeah.
people can use. But that's what we use because that's what my wife wanted to use, and she's the one who crunched a lot of the numbers.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a screenshot of that app on.
Yeah, it's
on the
pretty good.
screen
I
here.
think we pay a little bit. I think we pay maybe like $10 a month, you know, like a subscription. But hey, people pay for Netflix. Might as well pay for something that is going
It's
to help
useful.
your finance.
Yeah.
And so what happens is we sometimes go overboard on certain areas,
Yeah.
and then we kind of have to slow down on others.
Okay.
So
I
for
see.
example, my wife and I give each other a certain amount every month. $250 for me, $250 for her,
Do anything you want.
to do anything you want, because we share complete finance.
Yeah.
Like all of our paycheck go to one bank account. We share the same finance. We have separate credit cards just because we want to still grow each other's credit score. That's literally the only reason. But everything is shared.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, for example, I have my own spending money, $250 a month. I can spend whatever I want doing that. She never questions it. I never question what she spends hers on. But what happens is sometimes we went a little bit overboard, for example, in let's say, eating out. Then we have to take money from somewhere to cover that. And that
Yeah.
would be from our spending or from so many things. Like I do triathlon.
Yeah.
So we have an account for race.
Yeah.
We have an account basically a page, a tab
Yeah.
on YNAB for every single expense that we have. And so we don't really punish ourselves when we go over in one area. We just need to make sure that certain areas have to go down
Yeah. To balance
to
that out.
compensate, to balance it out.
Yeah, because you don't want to dip into your savings.
Exactly.
Do
No.
you ever, has there been ever a day when you had to dip into your savings because you spent somewhere else?
We do. We're
Okay.
not really perfect at it, and we do not look at it from like a very rigid standpoint. Sometimes we make larger purchases that were not accounted for, and so we go into our savings.
Yeah.
But we replenish them.
Yeah, and maybe what I meant was not going into the savings actually, but going down on the rate, the savings rate. So instead of doing 35% this month, you probably decide to do 20% because you've taken that 15% and put it in something else, some other expense.
Yeah. So savings, the way we do it is both my wife and I, we contribute in our workplace RSPs, and it's something that I find to be it's crazy to me the amount of people that I know who have work RSPs that the employer match, that they don't put money in it. So both my wife and I, we do that. We put money in our RSPs that both our employers match. My employer matched up to 3% of every money that of the money that we put in there, and for her it's like 2.5% or something like that. And then so that's a forced saving. That's at payroll. We don't even know.
Yeah.
I mean, we know, but we don't even see that money.
Yeah, it goes in automatically.
And when we get our paycheck, we return our tithe and offering. So she takes that away right away. For me, my employer, because I work for the church, I ask them to take it right away.
They take it out
So
before
I
they
don't
give
even
it to you.
see
Yeah.
my tithe. For her, she works for a secular management company. So as soon as it comes, she takes that out. And then we already have a monthly amount that we invest.
Yeah.
That is taken out automatically.
Yeah.
So we don't even touch that either. And all of that is about 30 or so percent
Yeah.
of our income. And then we go about our saving and our spending and our life. And at the end of the month, we usually have a little bit of leftover.
Yeah.
And then we add that, and that's about 5%, and that's
Yeah.
where we end up in around 35% or so.
Okay.
savings
I
rate.
like the way you go about it. And, you've mentioned here a bunch of things, and maybe we can talk about them now. You've mentioned some vehicles that you use here. So you talk about an RSP, and maybe you can mention a couple others, and then we can define what those are, probably for folks who don't know about them.
Yeah.
But I also want to imagine that very many people know about all these vehicles. I mean, RSPs, TFSAs, etc., or even other investment vehicles. But can you tell me about the investment vehicles that you use? And you don't have to mention the ones that you use necessarily, but you can just mention the ones that you know about that folks can use.
Well, so we use two. We use RSP and we use TFSA.
Okay.
That's what we use right now. Both of us contribute to our RSP from our workplace.
Yeah.
So for my wife, it's about 5% of her income
Yeah.
is taken out. The employer does the deduction for us.
Yeah.
And for me, it's about 3% of my income that is taken out at source for
Yeah.
our RSP. And then they give us the match, which is also still our contribution, but it's just a gift that the employer gave us. And then we have our own, so those are group RSPs. We also have our personal RSPs.
Yeah.
I don't contribute into my personal RSP. My wife does contribute to her personal RSP because she has a little bit higher income than I get. And the reason why that is the case is because RSP reduces your income your
Whatever
taxable
tax
income.
you pay, yeah.
And so basically she contributes extra toward her RRSP, so we contribute to her RRSP and we contribute to my TFSA. That's how we
Yeah.
do it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
TFSA is your tax-free savings account,
Mhm.
which is kind of a weird name because it's not really a savings account; it's an investment account.
Yeah.
But basically, you put money that is already been taxed
Mhm.
into your TFSA, and you don't get any tax deduction, you don't get any tax credit by doing a TFSA. But the good thing is that the growth, because you supposedly invest that money,
Mhm.
and the growth that you get from your TFSA is completely tax free.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree
especially
with
from
you.
like a long-term perspective, as
Mhm.
as younger people. My wife and I are both 29 years old.
Mhm.
We're not planning on taking any of those money out
Mhm.
for another decade or decade and a half.
Yeah.
And so all of the growth in the TFSA is all going to be tax-free.
Mhm.
In the RRSP, it's going to be taxed
Mhm.
because it's deducted from our taxable income now.
Yeah.
When that happens, it's going to be taxed. But like my wife, for example, her dream is to be stay-home mom.
Mhm.
And so if she basically she's now at her high tax bracket.
Mhm.
And so we contribute a lot more into our RSP because if God willing, we have children and she decides to stay home, then she'll be able to get money out of her RSP
Mhm.
at a much lower tax bracket.
Okay.
So that's the reason why we focus more on RSP for her,
Mhm.
focus more on TFSA for me. But at the end of the day, based on where we are right now, we would have maxed out all of them anyway at some point.
Mhm.
So it doesn't
Yeah.
really make that much of a
Yeah.
difference eventually.
Um, there's something you said that I found quite interesting, that many that a TFSA account is really an investment account. So I do know of very many people who use their TFSA account as a savings account. They just get money and they put their money in a TFSA account, somewhere with their bank or with some investment company, but it just stays in the TFSA account
Without being invested.
without being invested.
Yeah, that's useless. Because you
Exactly.
just put it in your savings account.
Yeah. So it's just sitting there. It's not earning interest,
Yeah.
or probably earning 0.002%,
Yeah.
which is basically nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
So
yeah.
where can people? You were gonna say something. Maybe I can come back to my question later. But you
Well,
can-
yeah, the idea is that you invest the money. The money has to grow.
So where can I invest it? Where can someone invest it?
Well,
And the reason why I love this conversation with you is that I'm having this conversation with a person who is not a financial expert, meaning that anybody can do this. I want to believe that a majority of the people who watch my podcast or listen to my podcast are people who work or are employees. They're not, wealthy, affluent business people who have millions of dollars in sitting somewhere that they're going to use. There's people who, put in their hours, put in their time, they work on a paycheck. And what I'm trying to show here is that it is possible to invest also when you are who you are, a normal working person. So then, I'm going to ask the question that I asked you again. So where can people invest their money in their TFSA, or what should they do with their money in the TFSAs?
yeah, based on what you said earlier, I do believe, before I answer your question, I do believe that one of the biggest misconceptions about investing is that a lot of people think that they have to be rich to invest. And yet, that's how a lot of people that are rich got rich.
Yeah.
But a lot of us who are not rich, we feel like, oh, we need to have a certain amount of money. We need to be certain, level of social, economical status before we invest. That's completely wrong. That's, I think that, your listener definitely, I hope that they know that. So for us,
I want to believe that many of them know that, but yeah.
yeah. So for us, we do use Wealthsimple. I really like the app. We use Wealthsimple. I have an account. My wife has an account as well, and we do not invest in any speculative things. We do not invest in any.
NVIDIA.
We don't invest. We don't even invest actually in single stock either.
Mm-hmm.
We don't invest in single stock. We don't invest in penny stocks. We invest in ETFs that track index funds.
Mm-hmm.
So we do invest in the S&P 500, which is an ETF that tracks basically the top 500 companies in the US,
Mhm.
including, well, NVIDIA.
Mhm.
We also invest in more global. So we have 4 ETFs that we invest in. So one is called VFV, which is
Yeah,
the
like
Canadian
Vanguard.
version of the S&P 500.
Mhm.
From Vanguard, we invest in an ETF called XEQT, which is basically 40% total US market, 20% of it is Canadian market, and the rest is
Global.
rest of the world,
Mhm.
global. We invest in ETF called Tech, TEC, from TD actually. Kind of
Mhm.
interesting. It's not very common
Mhm.
for a lot of people to invest in it. So that's like all tech. It's like 300 tech companies, a lot of NVIDIAs and all of that. And we invest in uh, ETF called XIN.
Mhm.
So basically, it's Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan.
Mhm.
But I mean, the detail, I guess, on those TFSA is not that really important as to why we go with that. There are so many that people
Yeah.
can choose from, but the
Mhm.
idea is that we don't invest in speculative things. We invest in very stable, in very broad ETFs, so that we actually don't have to think about like the earnings of companies,
Yeah.
because we don't have that kind of knowledge.
Mhm.
We just invest in all of it in its totality,
Mhm.
and it is proven actually that for a majority of people, large majority of people, people who manage to get the average return of the market based on like what we do for an above average amount of time, like at like 80+% of the time, always get better result than people who try to pick stocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I've learned a lot from you right now. I mean, I think my wife and I also, put a lot of money into VFV,
Yeah.
mostly because I mean it's the Canadian version that tracks the S&P 500, and I do love that. Um, but you've also said we've talked about penny stocks, we've talked about individual stocks, and also ETFs. So I think that many people probably do not invest because they believe that investing is going and buying Walmart stock or buying I don't know, TD stock or some company stock, Microsoft stock or Apple stock. So can you tell me the difference between ETFs, individual stocks, and penny stocks?
Yeah, basically, I mean, you have your individual stocks like Apple stock, Nvidia, Microsoft, and so many stocks. And what ETF does is that it groups a lot of the stocks together, and then you get the average
Hmm.
of their gain and also their loss.
Yeah.
Um, and it has been proven that for a majority of normal people, in a long-term perspective, getting those index funds is more beneficial. The gain actually is better because you don't have to worry about buying and selling and buying and selling the different stock. You just basically are in the market
Hmm.
as a whole.
Yeah.
Penny stocks are basically stocks of countries that got their like IPOs.
Hmm.
They just got into the stock market, very new into it. They're very popular. People put a lot of money in it, and they just soar, or then they just die. And a lot of day traders are very, you know, pretty interested in a lot of those penny stocks.
Hmm.
I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the time or the desire to watch at graphs on my computer.
Yeah.
So I have no
Those
interest in
red and
it.
green graphs.
And it's not a long-term plan either.
Hmm.
And for me, I am not interested in quick rich. I am interested in growing my income steadily and to make sure that my funds are as safe as possible,
Hmm.
even in time like, well, right now everything
Yeah.
is down.
Hmm.
I don't want to worry about like
Oh
every single
man.
stock that I have.
Yeah.
Is it gonna go
Yeah.
down? Is it gonna go
Hmm.
up? Like I am invested in the market, almost
Yeah.
the whole market.
Hmm.
And so when it goes down, I know everybody goes down, and it goes up, everybody goes up.
Yeah.
And historically, it has gone up.
Yeah.
So
And if you average that over a long time, even if it went down a couple of times, it's still gonna go up.
yeah, I really like the saying that somebody who gets the average return for an above average amount of time always come winner compared to people who gets like super high and then low and super high and then low based on a lot of different trading.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that too. But man, when you do all this, aren't you? I don't know. You have family and friends who are not interested in what you're doing, or who probably have discouraged you. What would you say
Majority
to-
of my friends are not interested in that.
Mhm.
Majority of people that we know
Yeah.
don't invest in the stock market.
So what do you say to those people? Have you ever had anybody who's actually discouraging you not to do this, or or trying to influence you to do something different that is not aligning with your financial goals?
A lot of people think that it's gambling.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think that leaving their money in their savings account and making 1% a year return is the way to
Where
go.
they see it.
You know where they can
Money is
see
right
it, you know,
there. Yeah.
is the way to go about your money. But
Mhm.
your money loses value through
Yeah.
inflation.
Yep.
And at the very least, you need to have your money, at the very least,
Mhm.
just beat inflation.
Yeah.
But, through compounding interest, which is quite an amazing thing, that's how you build wealth. That's how
Yeah.
you build wealth over time.
Yeah.
And what I usually tell a lot of people who are skeptical is like, go on Google
Mhm.
and look at a compounding calculator
Yeah.
and look, hey, if I invest my, I don't know, $500 a month
Mm-hmm.
for 20 years at modest 7% return, which is lower
Yeah.
than the historical return, but just to be,
Mhm.
like 6%, just to be
Mhm.
really conservative, what that would be. And the thing about it is that when we grow, our income grow too.
Mhm.
And hopefully we don't fall into the trap of lifestyle creep,
Yep.
because hopefully we will be able to increase our income but keep a fairly relatively stable spending,
Yeah.
so that we can actually invest even more.
Yeah.
So let's say the first couple of years you put $500 a month, but
Mhm.
in like a year after you're able to do 1,000,
Mhm.
and then the year after you're able to do 1,500,
Yeah.
and it just keeps on growing,
Mhm.
and the growth is going to be even a lot more exponential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you say to those people telling you that, hey, this is gambling, I don't know what you're doing here? So what would you say to those?
Well, I mean, it is possible. So it is not 100%. I don't believe it's 100% safe
Okay.
thing to do,
Mhm.
but it's the safest thing you can do right now. I mean,
Yeah.
like if the stock market completely crashed, we have a lot more things to worry about than the stock market.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it has survived. It survived the wars.
Yeah.
It survived the world wars. It
Mhm.
survived the Great Depression. It survived so many things, even pandemic.
Yeah.
And some people are like, no, like, yeah, I mean, Trump is like, tanking the market and stuff like that. It will survive Trump too.
Yeah.
So as far as I am concerned, putting the money in your bank is not any more safer
Mhm.
than to invest it, considering that you invested in the stock market,
Yeah.
not like
Individual stocks.
because a company can die. When you look at the other day, I looked at the history of the S&P 500. Majority of the top companies in the S&P 500 from 20 years ago are not even there.
Mhm.
So if basically you invested in those individual companies and you didn't really actively play with it, yeah, you would have lost your money. But the good thing about a lot of those ETFs and those index funds is that they self-heal. They reorganize
Yeah.
the percentage
Mhm.
of the company in there based on their performance.
Yeah.
So like we don't have to do the work in trying to rebalance it, because they do that
Yeah.
for us.
The reason why I love, invest in the stock market. Historically, people have said that investing in real estate is the best thing to do. But I've also found that for many people, there's a very great entry barrier into real estate. And so that being there, real estate investment becomes out of reach for very many people. As folks who are working mostly.
Many people can't even afford to buy a house for themselves,
Yeah.
let alone investing in other properties.
Hmm. So you can be living in a rental property and invest your money for your future.
I do believe that.
Mhm.
I still do believe in home ownership if
Yeah.
people can afford it.
Yeah.
But it's a conversation that my wife and I have had at different times. Like, do we want to buy like rental properties? And for me, One day, I believe I might go into that level of investment.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I don't have enough capital so that I could, if somebody doesn't pay the rent, I could be stress free.
Yeah.
Right now, um, right now we have a tenant because
Mm-hmm.
of different rearrangement in
Yeah.
our lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And if our tenants were not to pay us for like 3 months, that would really have a huge impact on our finance.
Mm-hmm.
If one day I get to a point where, they don't pay us or there's litigation and stuff like that, and it doesn't really affect me,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe I would consider
Yeah.
real estate.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, I make sure that I put my money into the stock market. And again, I am not the most knowledgeable person in the matter. I just try basically to do the best that I can do so that my money can grow and at least beat inflation.
Mhm.
That's all.
When you say that you're not an expert in the field, I also want to just say that over here, the chats that we have are not necessarily on, matters that you're an expert in, but most importantly, to show people that normal people like you and I can have this conversation and they can learn from us, learn from our mistakes, learn from a couple of things that we've done. But most importantly, do your own research, before you go and, get into doing this sort of investments, do your own research, kind of, try to understand a couple of things about it before you get into it. Because I believe that you also did your own research before you got into
Oh,
this.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
still do. I mean, I still don't know everything that there is to know. And
Yeah.
I consume a lot of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I consume a lot of information. And I have modified some of the things that I've done as my knowledge grew.
Mm-hmm. There's a Jewish rabbi that I listened to before I got into this sort of investment. His name is Horowitz, and I'm trying to look for his name right now. Rabbi Horowitz, out of New York. So they have this. There's a couple of guys in New York who have this podcast called Living L'Chaim. I don't know what that translates to in English, but I think it's living, kosher living. I can't find him right now. I'm looking for his English name. His first name. So it's somebody Horowitz, and I think that is where I learned about all this, and went into it headstrong. Now, if I were to come back here, I want to ask you a round of quick fire questions. Then we're probably gonna switch gears a little bit. So you're gonna pick one: stocks, real estate, or a small business.
Repeat again the question.
So pick one: stocks, real estate, or small business.
Stock.
Save more or earn more.
Both.
Okay.
No, because
I love that, yeah.
I said both because one of the best things that we can do is to
Mhm.
increase our income.
Yeah.
So that we can so that we can save more.
Yeah.
Um,
And by extension, invest more.
and by extension, invest more. And
Yeah.
and most importantly, not to increase our expenditure
Yeah.
because we earn more, but so that we
Mhm.
can invest more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Retire early and travel, or retire early and build passion projects.
These are not either or questions. Probably more the first.
Okay. So travel more.
Yeah.
Okay. So then it's either or. Okay. So what is one financial habit you live by?
Spend less than you have and not think that affording something means being able to make the payment.
Okay.
A lot of people think that affording something is being able to make the payment.
Mhm.
A lot of us can make the payment.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I could make the payment on a $80,000 car right now.
Yep. You're walking.
But that
to-
doesn't mean I can afford
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. You're walking to Daytona right now and walk out with a smoking, I don't know, Range Rover Sport 2024.
Exactly.
2000, yeah, 2025.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I really like BMW M2.
Mhm.
I am pretty sure I can afford the payment on it,
Yeah.
but I definitely can't afford the car.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think not to think that affording means being able to afford the payment and to always live below one's mean.
So book or podcast that changed your financial mindset.
Many. Like I said, I consume so much
Yeah.
knowledge, but one that I find to be really, really good is The Psychology of Money
Mm-hmm.
by Morgan House.
Yeah.
Housel.
Mm-hmm. Household, yeah.
That's, in my opinion, one of the greatest book that I have read on finance. The other one that I really like is this is the English translation of it, because I know he wrote the book in English as well, but it's original in French. Is Millionaires Are Not Who You Think They Are. I don't remember the name of the author, but he's Canadian, and I find that he is one of the only few financial content writers
Yeah.
that actually very much geared toward Canadian, because a lot of the content that we consume are for Americans,
Yeah.
and we can have to adapt.
Adapt to the Canadian
I
version.
adapt to the Canadian version, but this guy is Canadian. I'm gonna send you the name, and then maybe you can put it on the maybe you can put it on the screen. But I do believe that we in Canada have much better financial vehicle when it comes to investments and stuff like that for individuals than the Americans. I'm pretty sure that the Americans with their 401ks and their Roth IRAs would be very envious of our TFSAs and our FHSAs and our RSPs and our, education. What is the one for kids where the government gives you another extra $500 for?
See, child benefits? I
No.
think?
Registered education.
Oh yeah, RESPS.
RESP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you put $2,500 in there, and the government give you $500.
Yeah.
That's quite amazing return on investment, even
Of
if
course.
you don't invest the money just to
Yeah.
get the $500.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. And a lot of companies in Canada contribute to their employees' RSP match.
Yeah.
Like imagine you put 3% of your income, and then your employer put 3%. That's 100% return on your investment already.
Yeah.
On top of the growth
Of your investment.
of your investment. And I do find that the TFSA room is quite generous. As a 30-year old. I mean, I'm 29. I'm going to be 30 this year. Right now, I have. If I didn't contribute, I would have probably about $78,000 of TFSA room. That's amazing, and it grows every year. They add 7,000 every year, and all of that money will come out tax free.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even contribute toward your income, your income when you go into retirement. When you go into retirement and you get those old age security and all of those like CPP calculation and all of those, they don't even consider your TFSA.
Yeah.
You could have like $2 million TFSA,
Nobody looks at it.
and they don't even consider that as any part of your calculation, because you just get all the money because you already paid
The tax before.
before.
Yeah.
And so for my wife and I, we are very like I said, I geek on a lot of different things, and tax is something that I enjoy. I know a lot of people think of tax as like this evil thing that they have to think about. For me, I think of tax as like I love thinking about tax.
Yeah.
And like maximizing tax. Like for my wife and I, for our tax return 2024 that we just filed last month, I think we wouldn't have been able to maximize it much more than we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did everything that we could
Everything
to
possible.
get the most
Yeah.
that we can get out of it. I mean, that is legally allowed,
Yeah.
out of it. And all of our tax return are all invested. All of it. Not all of it. We gave ourselves $1,000 per person,
Yeah.
like guilt-free spending.
Yeah.
I put mine toward purchase of a bicycle.
Yeah. I'm
And,
gonna come back.
My wife
come to a bicycle.
put hers toward a trip that she's gonna go to Italy, I think, in the fall. But the rest of it, all fully reinvested, because it's money that you already get. It's not gonna be taxed. Might as well put it in the stock market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. And as you're talking about this, I was thinking about how we are always complaining that the rich don't pay their taxes because they are able to find loopholes through which they don't pay taxes. And then you say that Canada has all these beautiful investment vehicles that the government enables folks here to grow their investment and continue growing. And I think in that case, I would also say that I think that the Canadian government has tried, or the framers of the Canadian Constitution or the Canadian tax laws have made it possible for anybody to not pay their taxes, if you get what I mean, include both the rich and the ones who are not very rich, right? I was going to ask you another question. So DIY investing or financial advisor?
So I'm not a big fan of a lot of the mutual funds and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
because of the huge, especially in Canada. In Canada, the management fees of
Mm-hmm.
mutual fund
Yeah.
is, I
What,
don't know if I could say
5%?
it, diabolical. I don't know if I could say it like that. So
Yeah.
I absolutely have no interest in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the, like mutual funds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
However, I am a strong believer in fee-only financial advisors. Basically, these are financial advisors. They're not selling product to you. They're just selling service to you. We have worked with two different financial advisors
Mm-hmm.
that are both just fee only. We pay them money
Yeah.
to give us education.
Mm-hmm.
They don't sell us anything. They don't have anything to gain from us
Yeah.
except
The fee that you
for
give
the
them.
fee that we give them.
Yeah.
And we have used both. We used one earlier on in our marriage, because we were merging our account. We
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of those questions like, should you merge? Should you not merge? A lot of people have a lot of different opinion about it.
Yeah.
I have my opinions about it too. And so we basically talked to a financial advisor that that helped us understand that. And then recently, we worked with a financial advisor who is a lot more specialized with a lot of the fire
Yeah.
movements and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. Like for younger people who want to have much higher rate of savings and what are the vehicles to use. And we have used those.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, as far as I'm concerned, DIY investing with the help of a professional fee-only advisor.
Yeah.
That's the way I do it. But
Mm-hmm.
I see the merit in the other ones. I don't go
Mm-hmm.
that route.
Yeah. And I think it's important that you merge the two, though. Now thinking about it, the way I've gone about it, most of my life I haven't had to use any advice. So long ago I used to have a management fee plus product selling advisors plus all that, and then later on when I understood this stuff, I moved into DIY investing. But I think it's important to do both DIY and get an advisor only, a fee only advisor, because then it enables you to prop your DIY knowledge with professional knowledge.
Absolutely.
Which is
For my
important.
wife and I mean, because like 35% of your income is a lot of money.
Yeah.
We were not going to irresponsibly put all of that money into things that we don't have any knowledge in.
Mhm.
So for us, it was important for us to have opinions, and
Yeah.
thoughts, and experience of other people,
Mhm.
but not pay them to use their products that are meant
Mhm.
to increase their wealth rather
Yeah.
than ours.
Mhm.
One thing that I really like is there is a Canadian app called Blossom.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know.
Yeah, I know Blossom. It's kind of like a social media.
Yeah.
For,
So Blossom is like a social media for DIY investors,
yeah.
made by Canadian, for Canadians.
Mhm.
And when I joined them, they had about 50,000 members there.
Mhm.
Now they have like 300,000
Yeah.
members.
I was
And,
I am a member of the app, but I mean I don't have the time to go into it. But yeah.
And so they do. What I like there is the inspiration.
Mhm.
The inspiration that I can get from a lot of people
Yeah.
of my age who are so much ahead, because like I learned a lot about a lot of these things when I was like 26.
Yeah.
Imagine if I learned about it when I was 20.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing.
You know what? I was going to come to that question after you answer this question. So there is, you said here that you talk to a financial advisor when you're getting into your marriage and you guys talked about merging your accounts. So what did your advisor tell you about the merging of accounts? Because I think that there's very many people who are against merging accounts. And so what useful information did you get out of that? And then, advise you that, what, merging your accounts is a good idea.
Yeah, the people that we even talked to, I think, actually are not particularly into merging accounts.
Okay, I see.
But for us, we look at it from a Christian perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We merge DNA, man.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
live in the same bed.
Mm-hmm.
The least we could do is to merge our account.
Yeah.
Right now, my wife and I are completely one
Yeah.
when it comes to our finances.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that is separate is our credit cards,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't want one to not to kill their credit score.
Yeah.
That's literally the only
Mhm.
the only reason. But outside of that, it's completely together.
Yeah.
All of our income go into one bank account. All of our
Mhm.
expenses go from one bank account. All of our credit card payment comes from one bank account.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man. And, more power to you because you've been able to do this. There's many, many people trying to do this, but I think they've not been able to achieve that oneness, especially financially, mostly because their financial goals are misaligned. And I think that for you, the fact that you guys have aligned financial goals, it becomes very helpful.
I mean, I guess let me put a little bit of a caveat in there
Mhm.
because I feel like it's really easy to talk about a lot of this
Mhm.
when you're not struggling to even find money to buy food.
Yeah.
I feel like we are a little bit blessed, I guess,
Mhm.
from income perspective,
Yeah.
that we have extra money
Yeah.
to invest.
Mhm.
I will put that caveat because
Yeah.
somebody here and say, okay, they have like 35% savings rate. I mean, like some people, if they were to do 35% savings rate, they
There's
wouldn't
no
have a
food.
house.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have a food
Mm-hmm.
to eat. And so I very much recognize the fact that I speak from a very privileged standpoint
Yeah.
in this. However, I know that a lot of people that I know in similar income bracket don't save as
Yeah.
much.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are, I would say, the people that I'm talking to. I think that
Yeah.
if somebody really struggle to even pay, for the basic necessity, yeah, I mean, your priority is to increase your income.
Yeah.
You can have money that is a little bit more. The way I think about it is that if people are in a situation where they really struggle to even make ends meet, then probably the biggest thing that they can do is to increase income.
Yeah.
I mean, they're completely different conversation
Mhm.
on that.
Yeah.
The conversation that I have here are for the people who probably spend more than they should,
Mm-hmm.
or people who have the potential of reducing their expense, for the people who are saving money but not necessarily know where to what vehicle to use to
Yeah.
save those money. So I just want to put that out there.
Mm-hmm. You are a young man, I think, or I believe.
I'm very much a man.
And I'm happy that you had this knowledge when you were young, at 26, and you had this knowledge. And I think that when you start investing early, for long, you get these benefits for long as well.
Time
So-
is the biggest ally in there.
Yeah. So there's probably folks here who are, so the majority of the people who watch this podcast are between the age of 25 and 45. So that's the majority of people. Of course, there's people who are slightly under that or slightly above that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's imagine that this 45-year-old watching this, or this 50-year-old watching this, or listening to this, and they're wondering, man, I don't have the time. I can't retire early anymore. But I would love to get into this. So what advice would you have for someone like that?
Truly, I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know how you would be to look at this from a perspective of somebody who have a much lower runway, because my understanding is that, let's say you're 50.
Yeah.
At that point, your investment would need to be very defensive, because like for me, for example, right now, I don't like invest in like bonds and stuff like that, because I really don't care if it dips right now.
Yeah.
Probably a good thing if it dips right now.
You'll
It was
buy
pretty
more.
good timing actually with a lot of Trump's
Yeah.
stuff, because now when we got our tax return,
You're able to get it at a very low price.
exactly, yeah. So I look at it from that standpoint of a young person who, yeah, I know that the market is going to go down many, many times in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I know that there are probably going to be recessions in my lifetime, but like I just stay the course because I have a long runway. I think that when I get into my 40s, I probably would shift gear in my understanding and in my practices,
Yeah.
because I probably would start to be a little bit more defensive then
In your investment, the way you
in
invest.
my
Yeah.
in my investment then. But the way I think about it is that investing at a young age, yes, is an advantage, but I really do not believe that there is like such a thing as too old to invest your money. I don't think so.
So you can invest at any time.
I do believe that, but you just need to make sure that like what are you putting your money into.
Yeah.
At the very least, put it in a high yield savings account.
Yeah.
Or like, there are those cash ETFs
Mm-hmm.
that track like treasury bills
Mm-hmm.
and bonds with very, very, very low risk. I mean, the yield is a lot lower, like 3% or something like that. But the idea is that hopefully by that age you have more money,
Yeah.
and like a 3% growth on a few $100,000 is so much more than a 10% growth on 10K. So
Yeah. So yeah, interesting. Somebody asked me this question a couple of days ago. So they are 48 years old, and I was talking to them about getting into. So I also use Wealth Simple
that's
for my DIY. Before I used the TD Web Broker. Is it called TD Web Broker? But they used to charge me $10 per transaction, man, which is a lot. For even $100 transaction, you're gonna pay $10 for that. So at that point, I didn't see that as something. But when I got to understand this more,
the only viable option
Mhm.
that I find right now that are good is either a Quest Rate or
yeah,
Wealth Simple.
Wealth Simple, yeah. I tried to question a little bit, but I moved to so I tried Quest Trade, but I found Wealth Simple to be more intuitive. I find it less complicated than Quest Trade, so I stuck to Wealth Simple.
Yeah, for people who are very like now start to go really into the weed of things,
Mhm.
the Quest Rate allows you to convert your Canadian
Mm.
dollar to US dollar
Okay.
at a much cheaper rate,
Yeah.
because a lot of people because what happens is, you and I have both VFV,
Yeah.
and when we put VFV in our RSP,
Mm-hmm.
we actually get capital gain
Mm-hmm.
tax from the underlying asset
Yeah. Or
from
in
the
the
US.
US. Okay. Yeah.
But if you use the American
Mm-hmm.
version, VOO,
Yeah.
then you don't get that.
Mm.
But this is just on the
The back end.
no. But this is just on the dividend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's not that big of a deal, but Quest Rate allows you to do those things that
Okay.
Wealth Simple doesn't.
Yeah.
I think for me, I will probably worry more about that in a few years when I will be like multiple hundreds of thousands
Yeah.
of investments.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there yet. Yeah.
I had this stock that was called QILD. I think it tracked this ETF called QLD. So it tracked the Nasdaq. I had quite a tech-heavy stocks there, and man, every month. So it's a monthly. So was it an ETF actually? Yes, it was an ETF, but it was monthly dividend ETF.
Oh, one of
Yeah,
those. Yeah.
and so
Income targeted ones. Yeah.
whenever my money came in, I would see a very great chunk that was taken off of
Really?
first of all, they also take off money because of the conversion. Convert. Did they convert it to Canadian? Yes, they converted to Canadian right there and then, and so I didn't like that at all. Yeah, but anyways, so you took your $1,000, man, and you invested it in a bike.
I spend way too much money on sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what,
It's-
man? I love that indulgence that you've decided to get into yourself into because it keeps you fit. In my thinking, it keeps you fit. What do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's for me, it's a hobby, but also a way of living a healthier lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I had a cheaper hobby than triathlon, but it is what it is at this point. We budget it.
Mm-hmm.
We have a line in our budget for triathlon gear,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a line in our budget for race
Mm-hmm.
events,
Okay.
and we just put money in it, and I work with whatever is there. And
Hum-
if it's there, I don't stress about it. I pay for the entry fees and I buy the gear.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not there, then I negotiate with my wife.
How many triathlon have you been in?
Triathlon races,
Mm-hmm.
I have like 30 medals.
Damn.
But I mean, triathlon is has different distances.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done 2 Ironman, which is
Mhm.
like the longest distance.
Yeah.
I have done 4 or 5 half Ironman. I have done maybe 10 Olympic distance and maybe 15 sprint distance, couple
Okay.
marathons and 10Ks and 5Ks and stuff like that. Yeah.
My goodness. You are a living, walking, I don't know, fitness. I don't know what even to call you, man, because having been in 30 of them, I think that's a lot. There's a guest who's gonna be on the show here a couple of days from now. His name is maybe I shouldn't mention his name, but he's been in triathlons his entire life. So he's 80 right now. He's 81 right now. So he's gonna be going to one actually this summer in Spain or something. It was somewhere in, I think, Indonesia last year for one as well. Interesting. But I'm now inspired to even know more why he did that, because if you've been in 30 and you are, young, then you probably go to like 3 every year or something like that.
Yeah. Well, so what happens is in triathlon, majority of people have what they call like their A race and their B race and like training races.
Yeah.
So in Ontario, especially in Toronto, we're very blessed. We have a lot of triathlon events. From June to August, if I wanted to, I could go to like a triathlon race every weekend. There's
Okay.
so many.
Makes sense.
But they're short distance. They're short distance with much cheaper entry. And so basically, I
you
go
pay
to
to
so many of those.
you pay for the entry.
Yeah, you pay
Okay.
to enter. It's like $100 or something
Okay.
like that, because they have to close roads and they have to
Logistics,
yeah,
volunteers and stuff like that. Yeah.
lifeguards for the swim and stuff like that. But like one that I'm gonna do, for example, in 3 weeks is in Milton. It's sprint distance. It doesn't require that much planning, and I like to do it because I am training for a bigger one at the end of June, and so it allows me basically to practice, especially the swim. Like to be in a lake and lifeguards and everything around, and I don't even really schedule a lot of those smaller races. I just look at my schedule and say, oh, I have a Sunday here, a couple Sunday there that I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
And I sign up and I drive to the places, because a lot of them are all just around Ontario.
Yeah. I feel bad because I feel like I didn't do enough research on triathlon to be prepared enough for this part. So I think I don't know, we're still gonna soldier on.
Just ask me whatever.
Yeah, but let me ask you. So how did you when I knew about you, or when I got to know about you really much, it was from the Ironman that you won that you were participating in last year. Was it last year? Last year.
Yeah, I did an Ironman. I did an Ironman 3 years ago, and then I did another one last year.
So the last year one is the one that I saw. So I didn't see the one for 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the first one that you were in, because you kept talking about it on your social media, how you were training for it, how you're gonna be in it. And so I was really proud of you when I saw you finishing it, and I think there was an announcement, FIFA, you became, congratulations on becoming, you're now an Ironman. Yes, I remember that. I was like, man, I was really proud of you, even if we hadn't met at that point, personally. But when did you actually decide, what, I want to go into this Ironman in triathlon? Yes.
Yeah. So I actually don't have a lot of sports background. I grew up very little. I had like physical developmental challenges. I was always like very little, always pretty weak, sick all the time. And when I moved to Canada back in 2015, I got a bit depressed because of the change. I didn't have family. I didn't have a lot of support around. And for some reason, I just thought that, running would be good for me. People talk about it, like, sport is good for your mental health and stuff like that. And so I decided to run. And I discovered that I was actually a pretty decent runner. When I was a kid, I used to go to school on a bicycle. So I used to cycle a lot, going to school, back from school. And so I bought a bike. Eventually, I bought a bike. And so I run, and then I cycle, and then I run, and then I cycle. And then if you consume enough YouTube videos on running and cycling, then eventually triathlon, rose his head.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a swimmer. I didn't know how to swim. I mean, I knew how to swim because I come from an island. I come from Madagascar. Yeah, we're surrounded by the ocean. I lived by the coast. So I knew how to not die, I guess, in the water.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't really swim. I could probably do the length of like a 25-meter pool, and then I'm gasping for air.
Yeah.
And during COVID, it was one of the few activities that was still possible to do during certain times. And I signed up, and then I went to the pool, and then I started to swim. I started to swim, and next thing I saw, I could swim 2 laps, and then I could swim 10 laps, and I could swim like 20 laps. And I signed up for my first race, triathlon. That's literally how it started. It was not like a very big deal.
Yeah.
But by that time, I have run like marathons.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to enter bike races, actually, like just cycling races. It's
Mhm.
really hard because you need to have cycling licenses and stuff like that
Oh,
for
there are
safety
those?
reasons.
Okay.
And there are not many races. Usually you have to be kind of semi-professional
Mhm.
to enter decent cycling races. So if you really like running and you like cycling and you want to race, then triathlon is kind of the only way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for you to do triathlon, you need to swim.
Yeah.
And I learned, and I went to the pool like 3 times, sometimes 4 times a week. And I watched a lot of YouTube videos. And I have a bit of an obsessive personality,
Mm-hmm.
which has served me well in some areas, not so well in other areas. But when I find something that I'm interested in, I go really deep.
I think that's what I've realized about you sitting down this conversation with you. Because I
Yeah.
know you're also into film and you're really, not necessarily film, but, digital media in essence. And you're also deep into that. You get quality gear and all that. So, your financial, independence, you're really into, doing this the right way and doing it all the way. And now we're talking about, your triathlon experiences, and I think you also went in really deep. But yeah, carry on.
I signed up for half Ironman,
Mm-hmm.
and when I signed up for my half Ironman, I didn't even know how to swim the distance. It's 1.9 kilometers swim for a half Ironman. I couldn't swim that distance when I signed up, but I told myself, you know what? If I'm scared enough, I'll do it.
Yeah. So the fear
I
of
don't
dying,
recommend it. I don't recommend doing
the
that.
fear of dying in the water got you through the 1.9 kilometers.
Pretty much. At the very beginning, I told you that I am very prone to a lot of like procrastination, a lot of laziness and stuff like that. So I
Mhm.
feel like I need to set goals that are scary enough. But I still kind of know that it's possible, but I know that it will take a lot of effort to get there. That's kind of the sweet spot
Mm-hmm.
for me, and I do that in a lot of areas of my life, and that's the same for triathlon. And so I said to myself, you know what, I'm gonna want to do an Ironman, and I have done half. It was painful experience, but if I could do half, I know I could do a full.
Yeah.
And I knew that it's gonna be hard, but it's not impossible, and that's the kind of thing that pushes me to practice and to wake up and to plan and to schedule and to get a lot of those things going. And I've made a lot of decisions in my life, like even like work and stuff like that, that are around that, where
Mhm.
I try to do things that I'm a little bit more scared of doing.
Yeah. I look at your bicycles sometimes, man, and those bicycles very expensive. Aren't you scared of, losing them, or I don't know, the bicycle falling off of your roof rack, or I don't know. You put your bike on your roof rack, right?
Yeah, I do.
Mhm.
I do have air tags in them. I have air tags in them, but for me, before the podcast, we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
That I buy a lot of things used.
Mm-hmm.
I buy so many things used. If I can buy something used,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna buy it new.
Yeah.
Whenever I need to try to buy something, Facebook Marketplace is the first place I go to.
Mm-hmm.
If I really can't find it, then I will consider buying something new.
Yeah.
And like my bikes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, everything used. Yeah.
Okay. But they're really good quality. I mean, how are you able to fish out the good quality in Marketplace when, I mean, I've bought a couple of things on Marketplace, including some of the gear on this podcast. And sometimes when you buy gear on marketplace, I mean, it's been used. I mean, it's gone through the the motions.
My secret is to very respectfully lowball people.
Mm-hmm.
And I shared this with somebody the other day and they didn't believe me. For me, when I go on marketplace, I literally write people, I respectfully would like to offer you. And then I offer them like half of what they ask.
Yeah.
Let's say they list something for like $1,000. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I respectfully would like to offer you
500.
$500.
Mm-hmm.
And I apologize if my offer is too low. That's just what I can afford right now. And thank you for your response. It has always worked.
That strategy
I
is beautiful.
absolutely recommend it. Like for me, the biggest turn off
Mhm.
is when you sell something and somebody put $50 question mark. That's all that they send to you.
Mhm.
Like I'm not even incentivized to answer.
That is me.
Like I don't want to
Well,
respond to you.
I put in maybe a couple more words. I would be like,
Can you do
can
50
I
bucks?
can I pick today for $50? So that's what I normally say.
Yeah, I do that too. That's another method that I do is like, I can come right now if you would if you'd be able to give it to me for this price.
So you actually include all those words in your sentence.
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay.
Like, and what happens is, even people who say no low ballers will be like you'll be ignored and stuff like that. Most people always respond to me because I send a very polite text. That's like my secret on getting deals on Facebook Marketplace.
Gear under my belt.
It
Facebook
works.
Marketplace, I'm coming for you guys.
Because it is true, like somebody that is respectful,
Mhm.
you open your arm,
Yeah.
like the conversation, you can start a conversation. And I think it works in other things as well in life, but for Facebook Marketplace, it definitely works.
Mhm. So that's how you get. So that's how you're able to get your
Yeah.
stuff.
So, for example, for me,
Mhm.
I tell them I'm available to come
Mhm.
at this time. I apologize if my offer is insulting to them, although I know most of the time it is insulting to them.
Yeah.
And I'm very respectful, and I tell them if it doesn't work, I understand, no problem.
Yeah.
And most of people would say, sorry, I can't do it,
Mhm.
or hey, can you do this instead? And then they tell me, oh, let's say $1,000, and I offer them 500 or 600, and they say, can you do 700? And if I actually know that I want to pay 600 or 700, I will say, yes, sounds good.
Mhm.
I will come at this time, and I will meet you.
Okay. And so you always are able to find good equipment, good stuff on marketplace. Nothing that has
I have.
disappointed you.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So do you take time to review review the seller, or not review the seller, but look at what other people are saying about their reviews?
Yes, I do. I do a lot of research on the product,
Mm-hmm.
and then I search what I am looking for, and then some people offer it, and then I buy it from them.
Okay. So you get all this equipment, and then you start training for your triathlon. You have family, you have friends, you have work, you have other life commitments. I mean, you have podcasts to come and hang out with folks like me and talk to them. So how are you able to find all this time to train properly, to practice properly, to become an Ironman?
Yeah, for me, the busier I am, the more productive I find myself to
Okay.
be. So I train for triathlon about 8 hours a week. So usually it's an hour a day. Sometimes it's early in the morning or late in the evening. And in the weekends, I will put in like 2-3 hours or so. That's basically how I go about the training, and so it doesn't really interfere with my life that much. Matter of fact, it actually enhances
Mhm.
my life because I am stronger, I am healthier, I have stronger sense of accomplishment. Sometimes I start the day and I've already cycled for like an hour and a half
Mhm.
by the time I start the day. So actually, for me, it makes me feel good and it makes me feel a lot more accomplished. And I do, for family time, I try to get home at decent time, and I hang out with my wife quite a
Mhm.
bit, quite a lot, actually. My wife and I hang out a lot. We do a lot of different activities together. We go for walks. We go geocaching. Sometimes When I do my long running training, she cycles with me.
Mm-hmm.
So she cycles next to me. I put
As
my
you're running.
bottles on the bike or in her bag or something like that,
Yeah.
and then we're out there for like 3 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not gone because we're still together. We spend a lot of evening together. We play a lot of card games. We play a lot of things together. But yes, she's patient
Mm-hmm.
with me, and my commitment to the race has gone down a little bit since I got married
Mm-hmm.
because you gotta make time for
Yeah.
your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned to be a little bit more efficient
Mm-hmm.
about it.
Yeah, the little time that you're practicing or exercising, you put in
Exactly. Yeah, I
quality
try to be a
time.
little bit more efficient, and I try to be a little bit more planned.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not still good at it. You know, if she listens to this, she probably is gonna laugh at what I'm saying right now. But it's better than when I
Yeah.
used to be by myself, because when I used to live by myself before I got married, um, I could do a lot of the training whenever I wanted.
Yeah.
That's one. Two, I am not a very socially active person. It's just by nature.
Mm-hmm.
I have very few friends that I like to hang out with, but I'm not like out there so often.
Yeah.
I'm like stay home kind of guy. I like staying home, and I like to go to events that I like.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to go to car shows. I like to go concerts.
Yeah.
I like to go to certain social events geared toward specific interests that I have. For example, the other day I went to Blossom Social.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Okay.
go like a social event. Oh, DIY investors.
Yeah.
Amazing. So stuff like that I like to go to.
Yeah.
But I'm not much of like a big social gathering type of. I love one-on-one conversation, so I usually hang out with like a couple of friends, chat, eat out, and stuff like
And
that.
have a deep talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a tendency of kind of shutting down a little bit
Mm-hmm.
in a more crowded environment.
Yeah.
But I love one-on-one conversation with people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that also gives you an opportunity to, grow yourself personally, because I find that people who, don't spend a lot of time with people, my wife is one of those people actually. I feel like they spend a lot of time building themselves, and maybe that's why you become so good at what you do, or very deep in what you do.
Possibly. I mean, like for me, when I am interested in something, I go hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I need to be careful with what I get into. So, for example, until this tax season, for example, I didn't care much about taxes. But since like September until like recently, I've read so much on taxes that I feel like I have above average knowledge now on like individual personal taxes.
Yeah.
And so that's why I need to be careful with what it is that I pay attention to, because I go really, really deep in.
Mm-hmm.
But like based on what you said earlier, my wife and I are very different. My wife is an extremely sociable person, social butterfly. I can't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, we do compromise.
Yeah.
We do compromise. I tell her that sometimes she has to go to those things without me.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we go to events and we drive separately,
Yeah.
because I know I'm not going to last more than 2 hours there,
Mm-hmm.
and she wants to stay until midnight. I drive my car, she drives her car. By 9, I'm out. And then eventually, she get in bed
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
12:30,
Mhm.
because she likes people and she needs that interaction of people.
Mhm.
I don't need as much like
Yeah.
that social gathering, and so we kind of just we try to organize. She makes me go to a lot more events.
Mm-hmm.
Now I go to a lot more weddings.
Yeah.
I used to not. I used to be like, people don't invite me to weddings, I'm happy.
Yeah. Do you know how many weddings you've been to in your entire life? Can you count them?
Like 5.
Okay.
And 4 of them were with my wife.
Yeah. So before you met your wife, you basically only went to your wedding and one more wedding. Seems like. Before you met your wife, did you go to any
Well,
wedding?
funny enough, I used to film a lot of weddings. So I don't call
okay.
those going to a wedding.
Okay, I see what you mean.
I am literally there because I'm filming your wedding. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
It's just that because I didn't have that large social circle,
Yeah.
that I just didn't really get invited. But it was a positive thing for me, because I at least I didn't have to find excuses
Mm-hmm.
not to come. But since I got married to my wife, she knows so many people.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I have to go to a lot more events, a lot more game nights, a
Mhm.
lot more this, a lot more that, and it's. I find it to be positive because sometimes I know I need the social interaction, but my tendency is not to do it.
Mm.
And sometimes I go to those things with her, and I'm actually happy. I don't tell her I'm happy or what,
Yeah.
but like I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, I felt like I actually needed
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, it also becomes in a space to release, I don't know, some tension or anxiety.
Exactly.
That would be
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
But I'm very much like by myself
Mhm.
type of person. Yeah.
Growing up, did you ever go to a wedding growing up as a kid back in Madagascar?
No,
Okay.
not really. No.
You're the second person that I've met who never went to many weddings as a kid. Going to weddings as a kid for me was an opportunity for me to go and eat food, the kind of food probably we didn't have. So I also grew up in Africa, and we also had opportunity to go to, some weddings, folks' weddings from around the neighborhood. And so I'd go over there. So at home we were vegetarian, and so I got an opportunity to go and eat meat
That's a one way to go about it. Yeah.
in the wedding. But by the time I got to high school, I hated meat, so I stopped eating meat at
Ah,
that point.
really?
And then I came back to it though later on. I came back to eating meat full swing. I think a couple of years ago. It's probably gonna get to a point where I don't eat that anymore. There's a time that you said I was gonna ask you geocaching. What is that?
Oh, geocaching. It's a game basically on an app
Mm-hmm.
where different people hide different things somewhere in the wild, in everywhere, and then you go find
Okay.
it and you write your name in there. You drop a little thing in there and you take something and then you put it somewhere else, and that's
Yeah, I saw you do that 2 days ago. I was like, "What are you looking? Why are you looking for a piece of garbage in?" I've heard of the game, but I didn't know that was what you were playing because I was like, "It looks like it's doing something here." And then I saw you taking something out. I was, okay, so it looks like something is put in there. Okay, maybe it is that game that I had people talking about.
Yeah, it is fun. It's
Yeah.
for people who find it fun. It's kind of a nerdy thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Do you consider yourself a nerd?
I think I am a nerd, but not with the social awkwardness.
Okay.
I have a pretty decent, for somebody who is quite introverted, I feel like I have a decent social skills.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like nerd comes with like
Yeah.
weird.
Mhm.
I don't think I am that weird. My wife
Yeah.
may think I'm weird. I'm not that weird, so
I don't think you are. Just for
yeah,
Yeah.
probably more of a nerd, I guess. But
Mhm.
um, I have a little bit of life outside of the things that I'm
Yeah.
interested in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. True. So when you're doing all this training, do you ever get injured, or are you afraid of ever getting injured? Have you gotten an injury?
Funny that you're saying that because I have never been injured until very recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
What
so
sort
I
of
have a
injury
little bit
was
of
it?
injury in my knee right now.
Mm-hmm.
It was because of like the pounding stress of running.
Yeah, running. Yeah.
So I'm actually I worked with a physiotherapy that I didn't really like.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually looking for another more sport-oriented physiotherapy place to
Mhm.
work with.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of research on it. It's something that happens to a lot of
Runners.
a lot of runners.
Yeah.
And it's the first time, and it's kind of funny because now it's for the first time actually try to be a little more careful,
Mm-hmm.
try to stretch more and stuff like that. I used to not care.
Do you use a specific shoe when you're running that protects your, I don't know, your knees, for instance?
Special shoes?
Yeah. Running shoes.
Yeah. So I do pronate a little bit, like my feet, like kind of like my ankle basically kind of falls inward a little bit when I run,
Mm-hmm.
and so because of that, I try to get more stability
Okay.
shoes.
Yeah.
I can't, as much as I want to get the very fancy, like Vaporflies of Nike
Mhm.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that, they don't work. They don't work for me. So
I see.
I get a little bit more stability shoes to prevent injuries in that.
So when you are preparing for your races, I mean, I think the answer for this question is gonna be no. But has there been a time when you're like, man, I'm preparing for this? So talking about the Ironman from last year, or even the first Ironman you went to, like, man, I'm gonna get ready for this race, but then you feel like quitting.
Oh, I've cried. I have cried in the middle and I'm not a crier,
Mm-hmm.
but I've cried in the middle of a training because it was so painful. I'm like, why am I doing this? This is ridiculous.
And then what got you
remember
through?
I was doing
Okay.
something called a brick session. Like a brick session is a very important part of triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's like cycling and then running and cycling and then running and cycling and running. Like do them after each other,
Yeah.
so that you can get used to the transition when you do triathlon. And I was doing a fairly intense session, and I was mad at myself, and I was crying. I was like, really? Like, I could be in bed right now. What am I
Yeah.
doing out here?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I was just too tired that I got emotional about
Mhm.
it. But I don't really feel like quitting. It's just that sometimes I have to fight very hard
Yeah.
the urge of skipping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which happens to me all the time, man.
Oh, it happens to me too.
So I don't do what you do. So I try running 5 kilometers every other day and walking 10 kilometers every other day. So if I do 5 kilometers of running today, I'll do 10 kilometers of walking tomorrow. But
That's
then
amazing.
it's gotten to a point where, man, sometimes I just don't feel like doing it because I am so busy with many other things. But then again, I have this weird pain that happens in the middle of my foot,
Good. Yeah.
right in the middle. And I feel like, man, why am I doing this? You know, I know it's good for me because I get time to think and reason and, I don't know, spend time with myself out in nature and stuff like that. But then, yeah, it happens to me all the time, man. I don't wanna, do it.
And your sport is what we call type 2 happiness. It's
What is
not-
that? What is type 2 happiness?
Type 2 happiness is you're not really enjoying it that much in the middle of it,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of fun in hindsight.
Okay, yes. That is true. That is
Yeah.
true. Yeah, that happens. So once I'm done, I'm like, I'm so happy, man. I'm so happy I was able to do that. I was
And
able
it's
to
and
go
it's
through
really
with it.
important, I find,
Mhm.
in life in my life in general, to be able to put the grind.
Mhm.
Like knowing that this is the goal. I am not enjoying this process right now,
Yeah.
but there is a goal that I'm trying to reach,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the process to get there.
Yeah.
And I'm not enjoying it, but I know that I'm going to enjoy the result.
Mm-hmm.
And I find I learned that a lot in doing triathlon.
Yeah. Actually thinking about it, I was going to ask you. So, preparing for the Ironman or triathlons and finishing them, or completing them, how does that help you in other areas of your life? How do you feel that has helped you in other areas of your life?
Yeah, I mean, it allows me to do the thing that I said I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have promised myself to do a lot of things, and I don't do them.
Mm-hmm.
And time have gone, and then I look back and like, man, if I only did it when I said I was going to do
Yeah.
it, I would be in such a different place right now. And being able to do like the grind of triathlon training,
Mm-hmm.
like teaches me to be able to do a lot of the things that I don't necessarily enjoy, but are necessary for where I want to be at. That's one. But two, also to find a different type of happiness. Like I was talking about type 2 happiness to you.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people, if you ask a non-runner right now and go run, it will be one of the miserable things that they can do. But do it enough,
Mhm.
you actually will enjoy it. I
Yeah.
actually do enjoy running.
Mm-hmm.
And it's bunker for some people that somebody can enjoy running. But you can actually enjoy doing the hard things
Yeah.
if you build the habit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I still have a lot of room in a lot of disciplines that I need to achieve at home and taking care of home and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I basically can put myself through the pain of doing something for a goal that I want to achieve,
Yeah.
then I'm pretty sure I can do a lot of things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Man, I can see a lot of, how this also helps you solve your challenges or approach your challenges, really. Because I would imagine that as someone who's been able to undergo all this, I feel like going to a race is challenging. And so the fact that you can handle that challenge will also probably prepare me to handle my challenges better, or the challenges that life brings across to me better.
And I love the feeling of nervousness in
Mhm.
doing a race.
Yeah.
I love it.
Are you nervous when you're racing?
Very.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why are you nervous?
Because it's a huge undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not a great swimmer.
Okay.
And so, like, before getting into the water, I'm nervous.
Someone would say, "Man, you are a great swimmer. I see you practicing. I see you with the there's the floating thing that you put on your back. I didn't know what that was until I went and read about it. When you're swimming, there's
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, what happens is, like, swimming in open water is very dangerous.
mm-hmm.
It's just a dangerous activity.
Yeah.
And so I actually try not to just swim by myself in open water. I try to come with friends, like people in clubs and stuff like that, to
Mhm.
swim. But every now and then I find myself having to swim in open water by myself, and I use those like buoyancy bags, whatever,
Yeah.
so that if I cramp or something happen, I can hold
Mhm.
onto it.
I was gonna ask you, what are the risks of swimming in open water?
Death.
Yeah, I mean, one of them would be because of a muscle cramp, but what else would, you know?
Yeah, probably. I think on um like any kind of pain, I guess, would probably be one of the cause. Cramps or something that like can happen to you physiologically, and now you have nowhere to go.
Yeah, and do you think that there would be any, I don't know, animal in the water,
Not in
or
Canada.
okay, or
No,
any
there's none.
any log that comes out of nowhere, or a stick that comes out of nowhere up at you, like playing in the water?
Well, I mean, if you swim in ocean, I guess you probably have
Mhm.
more things to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Sharks.
Yeah.
I have been stung by a jellyfish. So yeah, stuff like that. I guess you would worry about, but in Ontario, there's
Yeah.
really like
Nothing to
I've seen a
fear.
beaver while I was swimming.
Well, beautiful sight, I guess.
Exactly. There's
Yeah.
nothing
Mm-hmm.
to worry about. I think cramp is probably the biggest
Yeah.
issue, or fatigue,
Mm-hmm.
because like usually when we swim like long distance, like
Yeah.
like a couple kilometers. Like an Ironman swim is 3.9 kilometers,
Mhm.
so it's almost 4 kilometers.
Yeah.
And so like you can't always predict how you're gonna feel in the middle of the water.
Yeah. 3 kilometers in, man. And
Yeah. So like imagine you go 2 in and then like come back out
Mhm.
like in the middle you I don't know, tired or something.
yeah.
I've seen death at a triathlon. I did Ironman, half Ironman in Muskoka, and I saw a guy who died.
Swimming.
Yeah, in the swim.
How did that affect you?
I didn't like it at all. It's so funny because there are certain things that you think of statistics. So apparently, for example, every year there are probably like 5 or 6 people who die in triathlon every year that are recorded, but there are like hundreds of thousands of people doing it. And so you think of it, oh yeah, 0 point something 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 0.00 something percent of the risk of death. So you say like, oh, virtually non-existent. But then you see somebody die actually, and you're like, yeah, it's a lot closer to home than I expected. So
Yeah.
it makes me just respect,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, the danger a little
Yeah.
bit more. Yeah.
Morning training or evening training?
Ideally morning, but I feel better in the evening because I'm not a morning person.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite brand of running shoes?
Right now I have a Nike Invincible 3 that I love,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a racing shoe.
Okay.
It's a training shoe. But the racing shoe that I have found to be one of the best right now is the Asics Metaspeed.
Mm-hmm. Open water swim or pool swim?
Open water swim is so much more interesting, but a lot scarier.
Yeah.
And you have to use pool because
Mhm.
pool is the practical way to go about it. I swim maybe like twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like the swimming pool is 15 minutes drive from my house. Wake up in the morning, go to the pool before I even start the day. Doing that in open water will be more complicated.
Mm-hmm. Training solo or with a group?
Both.
Okay.
Both, because triathlon is an individual sport. It's not a team sport. But when you're in the middle of the grind, having a friend help.
Yeah.
Like you have like a 30K run planned.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it by yourself. I do it by myself all the time. But it's so much more fun when you go with a club.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I used to be part of a triathlon club
Mm-hmm.
in Oshawa, but now that I moved, I need to get new
New members, new friends.
people
Yeah.
to get it with.
Do you have a dream Ironman race location?
Um, yes, the dream of everybody to do an Ironman would be to do it in Hawaii.
Okay.
That's where the World Championship is, but you have to
Mm-hmm.
qualify for it.
Yeah.
And I am not that high ranking
Mm-hmm.
to get a chance to do it right now. Like in the first one that I did, I think I ended up like 40th out of like 300 people in my age group, which is above average, but not near qualification enough. And in the second race, I think it was a little bit uh, near, but not. Because what happens is every Ironman race that you do, they have a slot
Mm-hmm.
that they give to different age group.
Mm.
So let's say 25 to 29 is one age group, and now I'm gonna be 30 this year, which makes it even more competitive.
Yeah.
Like the 30, 34-year-old is a more competitive group,
Yeah.
and so they would say the top 5 in each age group basically get to go to Hawaii.
Mm.
But I'm
Okay.
planning on going to Ironman in Cozumel next year, so
Mhm.
I think that would be fun.
Cozumel is in Mexico.
Mexico, yeah.
Yeah. I think I've heard of that one.
Mm?
I think I've heard of that one. That location. It's been that I'm in that location.
I mean, Cozumel is a popular tourist
Yeah.
destination,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to do it next year.
Okay.
This
You'll
year
be
I
killing
didn't.
two stones.
I
Two.
decided not to do Ironman this
Mhm.
year because there's a lot of transition in my life right now,
Mm-hmm.
like moving, changing,
Yeah.
you know,
I see.
workplace and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So I didn't want
Mm-hmm.
to focus too much on it.
Man, you are a walking dictionary in terms of sports and what you do, and I love that, man. And thank you for coming out here to have a chat with me, man. It's really beautiful.
No problem. Thanks
Sitting
for
on this
having me.
couch, man, it's an honor, man. Because I learn from everybody who comes over here. Part of the reason why I do this podcast is also to learn, because I get to learn a lot, by sitting with a normal person who's an expert in what they do, and I do love this.
Well, I'm far from an expert, but I'm passionate
Yeah.
about a lot of the things that I
Mhm.
do, and I'm happy to share them with people. And I guess the important thing that I've learned, I guess, through a lot of the different things that I've done and the things that we talked about, is that a lot of people are very afraid to get out of the statu quo.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all that they know and that's all that they're comfortable with. Like people need to learn to embrace, to get out of comfort zone more,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
like to learn to get out of bad habit, to learn to get out of laziness, to try to achieve the things that you want to achieve. And
Yeah.
and for me, for example, I try to always get into new things, try to
Mhm.
get into new endeavors. And right now, for example, my wife and I are building product. That's the kind of thing that we are kind of
Mm-hmm.
focused on right now, and
Yeah.
it's something that I'm new into, like
Mhm.
trying to get manufacturers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I am going to rabbit hole now.
Yeah.
That hopefully, like a year from now, 2 year from now,
Mm-hmm.
I would know enough about it that I would be able to share with people again, and
Yeah.
then by then I would learn something else.
Yeah. Maybe the next time we hang out, we'll be talking about that product.
Exactly.
So when people sit with me, I treat them like president, kings, and queens, and I steal this idea from the president of the United States. When they are leaving office, they normally leave a letter for the next guest on the show. So in this case over here, we chat, and so we ask each other questions. And so the guest who was here before left a question for you. I'm going to ask you the question now. What's one thing you are unlearning right now? And into bracket, you can be vulnerable with a smiley face.
What is something I'm unlearning, and what's the second part?
So they only put it in brackets, and then they say you can be vulnerable.
Oh, okay. What is something I'm unlearning
Yeah.
right now? I think the thing that I am very much unlearning right now is from a more religious, spiritual standpoint. I felt that um, my faith used to be a lot of do's and don'ts because I lived with strict Christian parents who instilled very good principle in me, but it turned into a lot of like list of do's and don'ts. And right now I'm really working on having my spiritual life more of an experience of salvation, that Christ died for me, and that a lot of the things that I do are a response rather than a mean.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I have been unlearning, and my tendency is still to think of earning and like a mean to salvation, but now I'm trying to learn to respond to the fact that Jesus has offered me life, and I am to live a life that is worthy of that as a
Mm-hmm.
response, not as a mean to earn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is very deep, man. Now here's an opportunity for you to ask a question to the next guest on the show. So take some time and think about it, and you can. I think it's charged enough right now. Yeah, so you can write the question. So funny thing, I don't see the question
So I
until
did. Oh, you don't even look at the question.
I don't see the question until the guest is seated right here before me, and I'm asking them the question.
Oh, okay. And I don't know who the person is or what their area is. Just
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, man. It's been an honor having you here. It's been an honor learning from you, and thank you for being vulnerable enough to share with us things that I think are very personal. Many people don't get to talk about their finances out in the open, and thanks for being willing enough to talk to the folks out here and let them know that they can also do it. They can change up what they're doing right now to become better, or they can continue doing what the great things that they're doing. But we've hung out here for what, 2 hours, and it's been a while. Is there anything that you maybe in the course of our discussion you thought about, but either I confused you, or something that you'd like to tell the folks out here that I didn't ask you a question about?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to share. I guess for me, one thing that I've grown so much in the recent past is really about marriage, because it's something that I'm very excited about. It's one of the most positive thing I find that has happened to my life. For somebody who is not very old, I'm 29 years old. I've lived alone a long time. I've lived alone for more than a decade, and so it's really boosted my ability to learn about people. But something that I really learned is that as a couple, we really need to work as a team. I feel like a lot of people in marriage kind of compete with each other, like trying to get the best that they can out of it. But I feel like we need to look at it from a more sacrificial standpoint, that we live, that our life is to serve the other, and hopefully the other, partner, I guess, will feel that way as well. And not only we are both fulfilled, because we are more fulfilled by serving, not by being served.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that is important. And everything is team effort. Yeah, team effort. I find that I had the tendency before we got married to kind of keep things to myself, and I've kind of learned to share more, to discuss.
Yeah.
Because I find that problems that are avoided are problems that are growing,
Mm-hmm.
accentuated. And from a financial standpoint, we had a lot of alignments that we had to find for my wife and I. But because we had the conversation because we promote a lot of conversation, a lot of talk, we were able to find, like a middle ground, find a compromise. And from a Christian perspective, the way I find is that we're in it for the long run. Like there's no other option.
Yeah.
We got married, and so either you want to get married for a long time miserable, or you get married, adjust all of the friction
Mm-hmm.
so that you can get married a long time happy.
Yeah.
And I guess that's one way to go about it. And learn to do hard things.
Yeah.
Yeah, from a sports or even like financial choice and stuff like that. Get out of comfort zone. People love their comfort so much.
Mm-hmm.
People need to learn to be a little bit uncomfortable.
Damn, the wisdom, man, that oozes from this man.
I wouldn't call it wisdom, but thank you. You're very kind.
You are very humble, but you're doing great, man. Thanks for coming out here and hanging out with me, man.
Well,
I
no problem.
really do
Thanks for having me.
appreciate it. Yeah. Maybe we'll get to do this someday, and hopefully I also get to visit your church someday, and sit in your pews and listen to you speak to your
Absolutely.
congregation.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, man. Folks, if you've made it this far, I believe it's because you did love this episode. So if you haven't yet, do subscribe to this channel, and do tell your friends to tell their friends too. Till next time, do take care. This has been The Couch Connect. I've been hanging out with FIFA today. Go Harry.